Okay, guys, I'm up here at the Udvar Hazy Center. You can see that right over there. I don't know if you can actually see it too well, but I'm up here to see Avatar 2. It's so surreal that it's finally here. Like, wow, it's actually here. I can't wait to see it, and yeah, let's do it. Hello everyone and welcome back to another 3D Reviews. Today we are talking about the big one, the only Avatar: The Way of Water, the movie that is a sequel to the biggest movie of all time when it came out, and hopefully it also ends up being the next biggest movie of all time. I saw it last night in IMAX 3D at the Udvar Hazy Center, and it was just absolutely a transcendent experience. Before I talk about the 3D and the IMAX and the high frame rate, I'm going to sit down and talk to you about the story, which I was the most skeptical of because I really wasn't sure where they could go with the story or what they were going to do. I'm not going to spoil anything, by the way, spoiler free. So basically, more or less, they sort of do a few things that are kind of retconny, and they have to set up basically the last 12 years because there is a real world time jump, I guess you could say. 12 years have passed since the last movie to this one, just kind of like in real life. And they got to set all that stuff up. Jake and Neytiri have 2 sons and a daughter, and they also kind of have a weird adoptive son. His name is Spider. He's a human child. You see him in the trailer. Jake and Neytiri have to face an old threat and have to escape with their family to a water village in order to keep everyone safe. So many characters, but this movie has a 3-hour long runtime. And so it's able to actually balance everything pretty well. Everyone has something to do. There are no wasted scenes. I know a lot of people are concerned about the 3-hour runtime, and while it might possibly feel a bit long, it earns it. There isn't any moments where I was like, man, you know, this is kind of pointless or this is dumb. The movie keeps going and going and going and moving forward and pushing these characters and these dynamics. This movie is packed full of stuff, and even though it's packed full of stuff, it doesn't feel bloated. It feels very well paced, and you can tell that James Cameron really wanted to sit down and develop these characters in this world as much as he could before he started rolling. Visually, this movie's absolutely stunning. We've come to a point with CGI where we can do literally anything, so it's about how you use the CGI, and James Cameron has really understood and developed this world. Like, he knows everything about it. Every single thing in the world has like some sort of backstory. The lore in the world development is just so well done. And it's also a very personal movie too. There really isn't a huge, bloated, over-the-top CG explosion fest like there was in the first movie. The whole movie is CG, but you know what I mean. How they knock down a massive tree with a bunch of explosions. You don't have that here. Like, there are explosions and fire, but the climax just takes place on some boat. And it's just a really personal story, and by the time you get there, you really care about every single characters. Hell, there is a alien whale in this movie that gets a character arc, a redemption arc. There's just so much going on, but it all works. It's not like Strange World where it's just like, oh my gosh, it can't do any one thing well. This movie does have the time to do everything it's trying to do well. Now, I will say that Jake and especially Neytiri kind of get sidelined. This movie is very much about their kids, their experiences through Pandora, and also them having to deal with the fact that they are hybrids. They're not 100% Pandoran. Their father is a human. By the way, I highly recommend this movie. Even if you can't see it in 3D, this is still a really good movie, and God, I hope it gets a 3D home release because I would love to have this in my collection. In fact, I would probably watch this way more than the first Avatar. I think I've only seen that version of the movie, the Blu-ray, like 2 times since I bought it, and I've had it for quite a few years. Let's talk about the IMAX 3D high frame rate. So I've never seen a high frame rate movie before. This is actually the first time. Re-release of Avatar might have had some high frame rate stuff, I'm not 100% certain, but this whole movie has the high frame rate. It's kind of a mixed bag. Sometimes it looked really good, and sometimes it looked really off, and like it felt like the footage was sped up, even though it wasn't. It was a weird optical illusion. Overall, most of the time you don't notice it, but when you do notice it, it. It either works really well or it doesn't work well at all. And that's just my personal opinion. I know there are people that watch these videos that do like high frame rate. I personally would have been okay if this movie was just at 24 frames per second, but like I said, the high frame rate in certain shots makes the movie look like a nature documentary. It literally looks real, like it's actual real footage. That's also a testament to the cinematography and the CG effects as well. It does help with the 3D. There are technical reasons. When the camera's panning and spinning and moving, there's more frames, so your eyes are able to adjust to the 3D and track the 3D a lot better than if it was in 24 frames per second where the just kind of blurs. There is an actual reason to have the high frame rate, which I'm fine with. It's okay, it's whatever. Let's talk about the 3D presentation. Of course, the IMAX presentation was fantastic. It wasn't the full frame IMAX because, of course, this movie has to be released in regular movie theaters, so they can't really do the full frame. But it was much larger than what a normal movie would be. It kind of didn't help that they showed the Oppenheimer trailer before this movie, and that was full frame, so you kind of have this idea of what a full frame IMAX movie should look like. And this movie didn't have that, but it's not that big of a deal. It was still a beautiful experience. The 3D in this movie is absolutely stunning. The first movie had fantastic 3D, and they were still learning the language of 3D at the time. And this movie is 12 years later. We've had 12 years of experience, and James Cameron just absolutely knocks it out of the park. The 3D in this movie is seamless. There are gorgeous shots, especially underwater, because more or less the characters can be flying underwater, so you're able to have things come up out of the camera. There are a few moments of pop out. Of course, James Cameron likes to push everything behind the screen because it's more about the experience of looking into Pandora and being on Pandora. There are pop-out moments, especially with fish and people swimming up to the screen. You can see that stuff in the trailer as well, but there's even more exciting 3D moments that weren't in the trailer, which I was really happy for. The 3D experience is just absolutely worth it. 75% of Avatar 2 screenings are required to be in 3D, and you can understand why. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think at most it should have been 50% because not everyone can watch 3D movies. They get headaches, they get nausea, especially when you're talking about high frame rate. There were a few shots in this movie where I was like, whoa, ooh, whoa. And that's coming from me. I've seen over like 500 3D movies, and I'm saying like there are a few shots here that got me going, oh man, calm down a little bit. But the 3D is absolutely worth it. If you're on the fence about seeing this movie in 3D, I know I just said there were a few shots, but this movie is genuinely fantastic in 3D, and I was really interested in seeing what James Cameron was going to do as far as that was concerned because of all the experience, all the years of experience we've had in understanding the medium. He has absolutely reached the pinnacle of how good 3D can be when being used with the story. It's extremely well integrated. It's not super in your face. He uses the moments in a natural way. It doesn't feel like the movie's constantly trying to remind you this is a 3D movie. It just feels part of the world and part of the experience. If you're on the fence and you don't really know what to do and you're looking at the show times and there's a bunch of 3D show times and you're like, should I wait for tomorrow so there's more room in the 2D show times? I'm telling you now, you are not going to be disappointed. This has set a new bar for 3D, just like the original, and I have no idea how he's going to top it. As I've said, when it comes to 3D, we've pretty much gotten down how to do it properly. It's just how you use it, just like with the CG in the movie. We can do basically anything. It's just how do you use the CGI? Anyway, I think that's all I have to say about this. It's just a fantastic experience. I'm really happy to say that not only is this movie great in its own right, it's much better than the original. Visually, it's absolutely stunning, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where they're going to take things. This definitely feels like the part one of a new saga of movies, and he's really got the hooks in you. I can't wait to see how these characters develop. Everything was great, and if this is a sign of what's to come, honestly, I think these next movies are going to be fantastic, and I think they're only going to get better as they go on. Anyway, thank you guys for checking this out. I might end up seeing Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Life is kind of crazy right now. I'm trying to figure out my own life. Might be a hiatus and things, I don't know. But with that being said, thank you guys for all the support, and I will see you next time. Also, I got a new computer, or I built a new computer. It's great, but that is a topic for another video. See you guys later. Go check out Avatar 2: The Way of Water in IMAX 3D if you can. I will see you all next time.